Hello and welcome to TVB News. The Center for Health Protection said the city may enter into the peak of the winter flu season next week. Health officials called upon residents to get vaccinated and suggested they should wear masks when visiting crowded areas. Timothy Lee has our top story.
Coronavirus and influenza cases have made a comeback after a drop in temperature in the SAR. The Center for Health Protection indicated that the new cases tested positive for influenza reached around 8%, which is on the verge of reaching the baseline threshold. But the threshold has already been surpassed for hospitalization rates at public hospitals. The CHP said the peak of the winter flu season could start next week.
The latest influenza indicators show that we are about to entering the winter influenza season. It is difficult to anticipate, predict the exact duration of the influenza season and also the severity. But I would like to urge the public, if you have not yet received influenza vaccination, please receive the influenza vaccination to protect yourself.
The CHP said 23 serious influenza cases were recorded last week, an increase from the 10 cases 2 weeks ago. Around 80% of these cases involve the influenza AH3 viruses. Data concerning COVID-19 cases are also on an upward trajectory, including both cases and wastewater monitoring. But they remain lower than the peak between May and June. Health authorities said they believe cases involving the JN.1 variant will gradually rise and possibly overtake the mainstream XBB variant. Dr. Chuang urged residents to wear masks if they feel unwell or when they visit crowded areas, as well as for high-risk individuals to get vaccinated. Regarding influenza vaccines, more than 1.7 million vaccines have been administered since last September. That's a 21% increase compared with the same period the year before. Vaccination rates for children and elderly residents also rose by 40% and 15% respectively. Meanwhile, 20,000 people have already received the third-generation COVID vaccine recently released to the public. Timothy Lee, TVB News.
The government announced it will not sell any new residential land in its fourth quarter land sale plan, citing the supply of residential units is close to reaching the annual target and that the residential property market remains largely quiet. The only land on sale is for industrial purposes located near the Yunlong Inno Park. Around 30% of the area must be reserved for the government to lease out to brownfield operators at a preferential rent. Secretary for Development Bernadette Lin explained the reasons behind the government's decision. Over 1,200 transitional housing units in a new project in Yunlong will be available for successful applicants to move in by the end of this year. This is a transitional housing unit in Laofaoshan in Yunlong. The project is operated by the Tunghua Group of Hospitals, the organization's fourth transitional housing project. There will be 1,233 units that can accommodate 2,800 people. The Secretary for Housing, Winnie Ho, said the project made use of the modular integrated construction. She said the show flat includes a small balcony, and she expects future residents to enjoy living there. The prosecutor in the trial of former media tycoon Jimmy Lai today completed their opening statement. This is the sixth day of Lai's trial, in which he faces charges related to national security law offenses. Mimo Singai with details.
Armed police officers and police dogs continued patrolling outside the West Kowloon Law Court today. Prosecutor Anthony Chow resumed his opening statement as the trial of Jim Lai entered its sixth day. The prosecutor said Lai had asked the United States to impose sanctions against China in an Apple Daily talk show, Live Chat with Jimmy Lai, on December 1st, 2020. Lai said Hong Kong required the support of the US and European countries. He criticized Joe Biden's multilateralism, saying it would impact the anti-China action plan. The former media tycoon also said the Biden administration should have realized strength is important when facing China. The prosecution argued Lai carried on with his malicious and unfounded allegations against the central and SAR government, despite knowing the national security law was to be enacted in Hong Kong. Some of Lai's Twitter posts were also presented by the prosecution. Between July and December 2020, Lai wrote "One country, two systems" is over on his Twitter account and praised the US for offering a safe harbor to Hong Kong people. Lai also asked the US government to save the 12 fugitives arrested by Chinese authorities when they tried to flee to Taiwan in 2020. Anthony Zhao also mentioned the SWHK group, which he said was acting as an international platform to call for sanctions against China and the SAR. Zhao argued Lai was the mastermind and financial provider behind the movements. Lai transferred over 180 million Hong Kong dollars altogether to his assistant Mark Simon in the last decade. Over 90 million was given to various members of the local pro-democracy camp. Between June 2019 and February 2021, Lai was accused of using different strategies to collude with foreign forces. For instance, Lai offered $5 million to paralegal Chen Jiwa to launch an international advertisement campaign as a way to urge foreign countries to go against China as the SAR. The trial is adjourned until next Monday. News 9, TVB News.
Overseas, human error may have caused Tuesday's fiery collision at Tokyo's Haneda Airport between a Japan Airlines flight and a smaller Japanese Coast Guard plane. Police are investigating the incident, with officials releasing the transcript showing the communication between air traffic control and JA722A seconds before the collision. Nazvi Karim has more.
The exchange between Haneda Airport's air traffic control and the Coast Guard plane that entered the runway is telling. After Tokyo Tower clears the Japan Airlines JAL 516 Airbus A350 for landing on runway 34R, the controller gives instructions to the Coast Guard's JA722A. Good evening. Number 1, taxi to holding point C5, the tower tells the Bombardier Dash 8 turboprop plane, which responds, taxi to holding point C5, JA722A number 1, thank you. The Bombardier then enters the runway. 516 collides with JA722A as it lands, and both aircrafts burst into flames. Investigators are now asking why the Coast Guard plane was on the runway when even the pilot acknowledged the tower's instruction to hold. 5 crew members on JA722A were killed. The badly injured pilot is reported to have told investigators that he had been given permission to enter the runway. Former Japan Airlines pilot and aviation analyst Hiroyuki Kobayashi heard the communication between the flight control and JA722A and believed human error caused the accident. JAL had already been given permission to land, he said. So I think the issue this time was the miscommunication between the airport control center and the Japan Coast Guard pilot. The professionalism of the JAL cabin crew and the carbon composite skin on the A350 are being credited with helping all 379 people on board evacuate safely. Officials say it took 18 minutes after the collision for all crew and passengers to exit the plane through chutes and reach safety. 4 people required immediate medical attention, while 14 others were injured. The carbon composite skin covering the fuselage kept the fire and heat out long enough for passengers to escape. 43 foreigners were on board the flight from Hokkaido. They were from Australia, Sweden, China, including Hong Kong and South Korea. Japanese police are investigating the incident, saying it could be a case of professional negligence. It is believed a set of stoplights may have malfunctioned, causing more confusion. Japan Airlines meanwhile said the disaster could cost the company an operating loss of up to $100 million, though it would be covered by insurance. Reports say the airline is in talks with individual passengers on compensation, believed to be about 10,000 Hong Kong dollars each. Nazvi Karim, TVB News.
Russia and Ukraine on Wednesday exchanged hundreds of prisoners of war. In the biggest single release of captives since Russia's full-scale invasion in February 2022, Ukrainian authorities said that 230 Ukrainian prisoners of war returned home in the first exchange in almost 5 months. Russia's defense ministry said that 248 Russian servicemen have been freed under the deal brokered by the United Arab Emirates. The UAE's foreign ministry attributed the successful swap to the strong, friendly relations between the UAE and both the Russian Federation and the Republic of Ukraine, which were supported by sustained calls at the highest levels. The UAE has maintained close economic ties with Moscow despite Western sanctions. Welcome back. Hong Kong's retail sales last November increased by 15.9% year-on-year, marking a continuous rise for 12 months. But some in the retail sector predicted businesses may experience a double-digit drop in the first half of this year. November's retail sales figure stood at $34.2 billion. That's an increase of 10.1% compared with the previous month. Sales of alcohol and tobacco products surged 152% year-on-year, while jewelry, watches, and clocks increased by more than 60%. But the sales of some items used in daily life declined, including fresh food, which dropped by 18.1%, and supermarket goods by 7.3%. Several district councils have held meetings discussing methods to boost the local economy through tourist landmarks. The Sai Kung District Council plans to invite more mainland comic artists to use their art to add new life to the district. In Sai Kung, local authorities hope to attract more visitors after setting up a Kubi statue in the area. The Kubi character is a popular comic character in mainland social media. The estimated cost of the project is around $100,000. At the Kwun Tong Promenade, local authorities have asked brands native to the area to set up artistic exhibitions along the avenue. In Wong Tai Sin, the local district council hopes to highlight the area's specialty through a more prominent use of Chinese calligraphy on its arch. Israeli news outlet Zeman Yisraeli reported that Israeli officials are in secret talks with several African countries to receive Palestinians from Gaza after the war. The report said the talks are aimed at cleansing Gaza of Palestinians wholesale, adding that it is slowly becoming the leading and official policy of the Israeli government and the coalition. The Daily quoted Israel's Minister of Intelligence, Gila Gamaliel, as saying that voluntary immigration is the best and most realistic plan for the day after the fighting. The report cited Congo as one of the African countries involved. The United States is firmly opposed to Israel pushing Palestinians out of Gaza. In England, thousands of doctors walked off the job on Wednesday in the start of a 6-day strike over pay that was set to be the longest in the history of the state-funded National Health Service. Daniel Rao reports.
Managers said tens of thousands of scheduled appointments and operations will be cancelled during the walkout across England and Wales by junior doctors, those in the first years of their career. The doctors, who form the backbone of hospital and clinic care, plan to stay off the job until 7 a.m. next Tuesday. Senior doctors and other medics have had to be drafted in to cover for emergency services, critical care and maternity services. Britain has endured a year of rolling strikes across the health sector as staff sought pay rises to offset the soaring cost of living. Unions say wages, especially in the public sector, have fallen in real terms over the past decade, and double-digit inflation in late 2022 and early 2023, fueled by sharply rising food and energy prices, left many workers struggling to pay their bills.
Of course, every day of strike action is a tragedy for absolutely everyone involved. There are no winners in strike action. We don't want to be on strike. You know, doctors are human too, and our friends and family are all vulnerable to poor health and sickness. We don't want to be on strike. We'd much rather be at work and being valued properly. But that's the crux of the issue. The government are determined to cut our pay year on year, and we've seen a 26% pay cut over the last 15 years. What are we supposed to do?
The union says newly qualified doctors earn £15.53 an hour. The UK minimum wage is just over £10 an hour, though salaries rise rapidly after the first year. The walkouts have strained the already stretched health service, still struggling to recover from backlogs created by the pandemic. Nurses, ambulance crews and senior doctors have reached pay deals with the government, but the union representing junior doctors has held out and negotiations broke down late last year. The government says it won't hold further talks unless doctors call off the strike, while the medics union, the British Medical Association, says it won't negotiate unless it receives a credible pay offer. The union says junior doctors' pay has been cut by more than a quarter since 2008. Daniel Rao, TVB News.
Former U.S. President Donald Trump has asked the U.S. Supreme Court to review a ruling barring him from the state of Colorado's 2024 presidential primary ballot. Trump appealed a 4-3 ruling in December by the Colorado Supreme Court that marked the first time in history that Section 3 of the 14th Amendment was used to bar a presidential contender from the ballot. The court said Trump's role in the January 6, 2021 attack on the U.S. Capitol disqualified him under the clause. U.S. bankruptcy filings surged by 18% in 2023, according to findings published by a bankruptcy data provider. Total filings, including commercial and personal insolvencies, rose to 445,186 last year, compared to 378,390 in 2022. This comes amid higher interest rates and tougher lending standards. Analysts expect the number of bankruptcies in the U.S. to continue to rise in 2024, as interest rates are set to remain high amid near historic levels of household debt. And in esports, the falling block video game Tetris has finally met its match. 13-year-old American Willis Gibson in late December became the first player to officially beat the original Nintendo version of the game. Nazvi Karim has more.
That was the moment 13-year-old Willis Gibson achieved a kill screen on Tetris, something never done before and which put him in the history books. Technically, Gibson, known as Blue Scooty in the gaming world, reached a point where the Tetris code glitches, crashing the game. It's a highly coveted achievement in video games. And it's a very big deal for 40-year-old Tetris, which has long been described as an unbeatable game. Theoretically, those 4 block shapes just keep falling, no matter how good you get at stacking them into disappearing rows. Until, that is, Willis managed on December 21st to trigger a kill screen on level 157, which the gaming world takes as a victory over the game. Even the makers of Tetris agree. Congratulations to Blue Scooty for achieving this extraordinary accomplishment, a feat that defies all preconceived limits of this legendary game, Tetris CEO Maya Rogers said in a statement. Nazvi Karim, TVB News.
That's the news. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.